Okay guys, so welcome to yet one more brilliant episode. We have started doing videocasts, as you can see. We have started doing videocasts because, as we promised in 2015, beginning of the year, we are building community. And to build the best community, of course, we are bringing in the experts. I can just touch the topic slightly, but today I have expert who is going to be talking about performance, how you, being a web professional, can increase your performance, you know, and we will touch such topics as, you know, accountability, business mindset, and that sort of things, the things we have talked about, but today we're going to go nice and deep in depth. So I have to say a nice big warm welcome to my today's guest, Jairek.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
And so, yeah, of course, I'm very honored and very thankful for you being able to take out your time and come here and share your experience and knowledge and what you know, which also I believe is you know, a set of topics that are very, very close to your heart as well, not just something you're trying to earn money with.
No, they are. I've grown up in this industry as far as personal development and performance and positive thinking and self-help, and I literally grew up in the industry. My very first seminar was in my mom's belly. So she was pregnant with me, teaching people how to break through their fears by breaking bricks with their bare hand. Wow. You know, my first firewalk was in my dad's arms and 3 months old. We were at John Denver's ranch in Colorado, and he was doing a small firewalk for people, and so he carried me across at 3 months old when I was just big enough to fit in his hands. And then literally my first firewalk was at 5 years old. I was board breaking since I was like 7. So all those things that people use as metaphors to break through, I've literally been doing since a very small child. And the interesting part is nowadays, because the industry's grown, is there's many other young people who started out at the same age doing it. And it's not so much, hey, I was blessed to grow up in it, so therefore I'm blessed to do it my whole life, because a lot of those people have chosen to do many other things with their life. You know, they've chosen to go into business or movies or acting or dancing or whatever they choose, whatever their passion is. And this is something not only that I grew up with, but it's also something that I find deeply as a passion of my own, where I really love genuinely helping people. And one of my initial goals was to go into a business I could just focus 100% on helping others. And the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about that was probably a nonprofit. But then I looked at the lifestyle you get when you work for a nonprofit, and that was not the lifestyle I wanted. So I had a weird kind of situation of, how do you have a really cool lifestyle while focusing 100% of your time on just helping people? And I was like, what a weird kind of paradigm. It didn't really exist, and it was just growing. So I jumped in, and coaching allows me to do that, where I can have a very lucrative and profitable business focused 100% on helping and serving others be their best self and get the results they want. But then I can take that money and I can donate to charity. We're building our second school right now this year. Wow. Last year we built one in rural China. This year we're going to build one, I think, somewhere else in Southeast Asia or maybe Africa, through Pencils of Promise. So we have a website up, and we're donating every month and funding it ourselves, and having people join in with us along to help fund that. And while we're doing that, is giving it away, but we're also using it to free up our time to allow us to go physically to places around the world and help out as well. So once a year we do a retreat where we actually take a group with us, and we go find a way to build houses, build schools. One time we partnered with the mayor of Manta, Ecuador, and we threw a Christmas party for 200 families who couldn't afford it. And we spent time, we brought Santa Claus and elves and threw them a big Christmas celebration with like food and supplies they needed. We get to do fun stuff like that. And, you know, my thought is, what a blessing to be in a career where I can focus 100% on adding value to people's lives, and through it have the ability to donate to my favorite charities, hands-on go volunteer, and spend the rest of my time just finding a way to make a big difference in the world.
Wow, no man, I don't blame you. You know, everyone I've talked to who is sort of giving their time away and helping other people, that's when they really can say, yeah, I found my purpose, I feel good, my life has a meaning, you know. And after all, that's what sort of we teach our community as well. We try to help them, because then they can help their clients. So it's like a chain reaction. And yep. You know, there's a saying that no matter how successful you are, I mean, even say you being a coach, you still need a coach who's higher than you, who, you know, helps you. So it's like a chain reaction. And so
there's one thing to consider on hierarchy there. us guys always have hierarchy. So the biggest guy or the strongest guy or the most powerful guy around us will always be like, whoa, look at him. It's a natural thing for men to have. Women don't have it as much, but men certainly do. I remember seeing, like, I got to go visit the silverback gorillas in Rwanda. And when you walk up to the small family and there's a 650-pound gorilla sitting there, instantaneously, you're like, wow, I respect that guy. Why? Because he could probably kill me with his bare hands. And there's an instant hierarchy that exists in nature, especially for men. What's interesting about that, though, is in the coaching realm, it's not necessarily that someone's better than you. It's not someone that's higher up than you or further ahead than you.
Yeah.
It's someone who has the insight you need at this moment that allows you to progress. Because you might look at someone and say, well, I make $50 million a year and they only make $25 million a year. Therefore, what could they ever share with me? And it's a weird paradigm people tend to get where it's like, if you're not making more than me or you're not doing something bigger than I am, then you must not know more. And the truth is, you might be knowing that industry and that business so well that allows you to succeed at such a high level, but this person knows relationships so well that they tell you one thing they learned many years ago and it changes the dynamic of your entire relationship forever. And so my thought is looking for people and looking at them in two ways. One, where are they an incredible example of life, meaning of what to do in life? And second, where are they an incredible warning? Because I believe everyone, as good as I believe people are on this planet, I think everyone has some area of their life where they're a big warning of just what not to do. And so when you can look at everybody, no matter how big they are, how small they are, and say, where are they an example? What can I learn from them and that's good? And where is this person a warning? What can I learn from them that just don't do that ever?
Yeah.
It becomes great lessons.
Well, after all, looking at us, me, you, our community, this is one more example, that I believe perhaps you're not as skilled as, say, me and my community in web design, and perhaps you don't even want to, you have no need for it. Nope. At the same time, the reason why we have you on the show is really to teach us the things that we are struggling with, like I mentioned at the beginning, accountability, performance, business mindset. So perhaps, the most overused, for a reason, problem in performance is motivation, but I will give you the word to tell me what is that biggest problem. Clients come to you, Jairek, man, help me, I'm struggling, regards business and career.
We get all kinds of stuff. We get people who are just starting, who really don't know how to start. They have a disillusioned thought of how it's supposed to work. They think because they started a website or because they put up a blog or because they got a little logo that represents them as a company, because they started, that clients should just be flooding in and they should have this great business and they should be speaking everywhere and coaching everywhere and teaching everywhere and they should have so much money they don't even know what to do with it. And what most people, I even talked to a young man today and he said, hey, I've written my first book. How do I make it a New York Times bestseller? And my first question was, well, how big is your platform? How big is your community? How many years have you invested in delivering so much value to people that they trust you, they like you, and they can't wait to learn more from you? And he's like, what does that mean? I said, well, you're not ready to publish a book then. I said, it doesn't mean the world doesn't need your knowledge. It doesn't mean it's not a good book. It means you haven't invested enough time to build the proper foundation that you can then launch this from.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem most people face, especially when getting started, is they don't have an accurate view or understanding of what it takes to build a really solid foundation that allows you to start getting momentum in whatever industry you're in. If you get into web design, people think like, where's my 200 clients that I get overnight? If you get into coaching, where's my 50 clients that I can coach one-on-one? If you get into speaking, why am I not booked everywhere for a fee? Why do I have to go show up? Why am I paying to speak somewhere? You hear people do this all the time, but if you rewind any career, even acting or comedy, Jim Carrey is a great example where, nowadays he gets paid $20 million, $40 million, $50 million to be in one film. But back in the day, I remember hearing a story where he drove 5.5 hours to get to a bar to do a free stand-up comedy gig at midnight with 3 people in the audience.
Wow.
And he made zero money. But he drove home, got up, went to work the next morning like no big deal, because that's how bad he wanted to give his gift to the world. And if you're willing to put yourself in that position where you identify your gift, your core talent you want to offer the world, and you're willing to give it everywhere, as much as you can, as many places as you can, as often as you can, you will find a way to start generating so much value and so much stimulation of the economy that people will now start wanting it from you. I'll give you another example. I don't know if you've ever heard of Eric Thomas, the hip-hop preacher. He's the guy who has that video that's like, when you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. I was talking with him and his team a few weeks ago, and we were talking about it, and I said, how did you grow? Because you started off homeless in Detroit, dropped out of high school, eating out of garbage cans, sleeping in abandoned buildings. How in the world did you make it to a point now that you're charging what you're charging and you're booked out everywhere? Like you were just packing out locations and everyone wants you. And he says, well, it was a long road. He said, I started off, just by doing high school speeches for like football teams and high school classes. I was like, high schools? He's like, yeah, I just started talking to kids because I wanted to get them fired up. So I'd go in there and I would deliver, and they got so fired up. And then pretty soon I was talking to like this high school and that high school and this high school and that high school, and I was charging like $800 a speech. And I looked at him, I was like, $800 a speech? That's not a lot of money, especially in the speaking world. An entry-level speaking gig is normally anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000. Now, a mid-level speaker gets paid anywhere between, in a corporate environment where a corporation like Microsoft or Goldman Sachs, a big company is bringing you in, a multi-billion-dollar company is bringing you in, they normally don't want an entry-level speaker. They normally want like a mid or high-level tiered speaker. A mid-level speaker can get paid anywhere between $25,000 to $60,000 for an hour keynote, and a high-level speaker can get paid upwards of $100,000, $400,000, $500,000 for just one speech. I've heard that Bill Clinton gets booked out at like $400,000 for a keynote. So it's pretty, huge gap. But $800 isn't even on the scale. So I said, wow, what changed? And he said, well, I went out there and I loved giving to these kids. So I literally got booked everywhere, where I was booked like today at these 2 schools, tomorrow at these 2 schools, the next day at these 2 schools. He's like, I was doing 2 schools a day, just about 7 days a week. It was phenomenal. Like I was booked everywhere, but we would get a call. Let's say we were in Kentucky doing back-to-back-to-back schools every day, and we get a call from California saying, we want you next week out here. And he would just say, honestly, I would love to, but there's no physical way I could get myself to California next week because I'm booked. Solid. Like there's no room for that to fit in. And they'd say, well, you tell us what it takes, we'll make it happen. And he said, listen, I'm going to have to give up 4 speeches for this one. So if you're willing to pay 4 times the price for me to be there, I'm willing to rearrange those other speeches and get there. And they said, done, no problem.
Nice.
Now his fee just went up 4 times. It's like, interesting. And then he would go to California. When he's in California, he'd get calls from New York, and they're like, we want you here next week. And he's like, I can't. I got 4 speeches in Kentucky to do. And I'm in California. They're like, we'll pay the flight. And he's like, listen, that's a lot of flying. I don't know. My wife's with me. I'm tired. He's like, we'll pay 2 first-class tickets. We'll pay 4 times the speech. We'll pay 5 times. We just want you here next week. Okay, fine. And all of a sudden it grew again. But here's what's interesting. What most people do when they get started is they grow their price just because they want to fit in with people who've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years. So instead of coming in at an entry-level price and saying, hey, I'm going to add so much value and I'm going to come in at a price that's reasonable, and I'm literally going to book myself so solid that I have 0 hours to give anywhere more time because I'm full. Like I have too many clients. I am full. You can't fit another client on my schedule. If you want to be on my schedule, you're going to have to pay me more because I have no physical room for any more. Now at that moment, naturally your value and price is going to go up because there's no other way to make it work. The mistake most people make is they let their ego or their pride guide them, and they come in and say, well, in the marketplace, if people are making 5, 10, 20,000 a speech, I'm just going to enter my very first speech and say, I charge $25,000 because I'm worth it and I value myself. But the truth is, you haven't gotten booked 127 times at $800. You're not packed out last week. This week is not full. If there's a speech for $800, you should be there because that's your opportunity to add value, to get your name out there, to build a brand so that people actually know who you are. That's what I would say is the starting piece for people to pay attention to. Be willing to earn your way to the top instead of trying to just let your ego or pride say, oh, I'm better than that. I'm not going to take a deal unless it's at this level. Now, a lot of marketers don't teach that. A lot of business sales guys don't teach that. They tell you, hike up your price. You'll find better customers. Just demand more of the world. And my thought is, instead of demanding more of the world, demand more of yourself. If you're really here to serve others, show up and serve. You know, show up and give your heart and soul. Show up to the times when they might not have the fee, but they have an audience or they have the ability to help you reach more people. Do it. Deliver again and again and again and again and again, and over-deliver so many times that people become raving fans. Give them what they want, give them what they need, and give them what they didn't even know they needed, and do it so well that they brag about you to every human being they meet. And allow that to grow your business and pack it out to the point that you don't have room for any more clients. And at that point, allow it naturally to raise your fees and brand and everything else. And this is how I started. When I started in my business, I put up a website 6 years ago. And in 8 months, I had 52 one-on-one coaching clients per month. 52 clients a month is too many.
Yeah.
So people would email me and be like, I want coaching. And I'm like, literally, I'm working 7 days a week. I get up at 6 in the morning. I go to bed at midnight because I have to be working all day and doing paperwork all night. I don't have room for any more clients. I will happily refer you to another coach because I don't have space or time for you. I would love to help you. No space or time. And they came back and they're like, well, what do I have to pay to become a client? I was like, well, if you want me to delete a client off my board, I have to delete 2 people for you. So you're going to have to double the rate. And it went up. And they said, okay. I said, okay. Well, maybe I'll start charging this now then. So next person came and I'm like, listen, I'm full. I got a packed out client list. If you want coaching, you're going to have to pay double the rate because I don't have room. If I'm going to make room for you, it's double. And they said, okay, no problem. Came in. After a while, I was full at that rate. I had no more space, even at the double rate. So I'm like, okay, now I got to triple the rate. I got to add more, and it worked. And now we started off at just a few $100, $500 a month for coaching for 3 calls. And that was reasonable. It's not expensive. It's very reasonable for 3 calls in the coaching space. Now it's $1,500 a month for 3 calls. So, that's a big jump. It's 3 times the price, or 5, 10, 15. Yeah, 3 times the price, because of the fact that that's something that now keeps us full at that price point. We went higher than that, and we found out that we had clients dropping out because it was overpriced for what we deliver. And so we just pulled it back right to $14.97. People like it, and it works, and it keeps us full as a client base, as coaching. And then it gives us enough free time to now build other parts of our business. So that thought process of we earned our way to where we're at now, we didn't let our ego or the marketplace tell us you need to charge more for whatever reason. We allowed effort and consistency, and our value to the market allowed us to elevate our brand and elevate our price and elevate our service.
Well, yeah, by the sounds of it, all it took was, just over 100 bookings at $800, and that's an overnight success for you, as they say. That's all it takes.
And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
The monetary side of it will always add up. But my thought is always focus on the service side. Most people focus on how do I make $1 million. The real question they should be asking, if they really want that result, is how do I help 1 million people? Because if they focus on helping 1 million people and they do it well enough, the money will come naturally. Because if you really add value and you really make a difference for those people, you bet they'll want to pay you. They'll want more. They'll want to come get even more from you just because you added so much value to them. And there's a lot of people getting started, and this is a weird moment when you're adding value, 0 clients. adding value, nothing. Adding value, nothing. And this is where you have to have a whole lot of faith and a whole lot of internal certainty that it's going to work out. You have to have a mindset that's unstoppable. You have to have a morning routine or some type of habit you do every day that mentally fills you up and solidifies you so that you're so strong from within that no matter what life throws at you, it doesn't even affect you and you move right through it and keep going forward. The analogy I give is if you were a soda can and you open up the soda can and pour it out and you say that's how most people start their day, completely empty emotionally. Now, if you took a soda can empty and you gave it to a small child can easily dent it, and crush it with his bare hands. Now, if you take the same soda can, you fill it all the way to the top, you seal it and hand it back to the same child, a bodybuilder can crush it with his hands, but a small child could barely even dent a can, much less crush it with its hands. That's how you want to take on life. What kind of routine, mentally and emotionally, do you need to have every morning? Whether it's working out, meditation, incantations, affirmations, reading positive things, listening to positive things. What physical, mental, emotional activities do you need to do every single day to fill yourself up and then to pressurize yourself so that you have so much goodness and powerful positiveness from the inside pushing out that no matter how much pressure life pushes on you in the day, you have so much good pushing out, you don't even feel it.
Man, I feel like I'm robbing you off now. You know what I mean? It's like, if this is what the calls are like you're giving, you know what I mean? I deserve to pay you, the third of, what was it, 1,500 a month for 3 calls. So much goodness, man. I just asked you a simple question. Unstoppable. and you hit the nail right on the head, because, I mean, yeah, this is the problem, because there are, some top guys. We have interviewed some top guys, web designers here, who are serving some cool, big names, And then there are so-called freelancers who trade hour per dollar, they are frustrated. And then when I ask these big guys, how did you start? He says, well, I didn't start yesterday, my friend. It took, a few years, to be honest, So, yeah, there is no easy way, unfortunately. It's interesting. But the funniest thing is, which I think actually you quite answered this question already. My question was, what is that fine line between giving stuff for free or nearly for free and, finally charging premium prices, because I was worried that people, audience who have heard you speak, who have seen you, wouldn't they expect you to, do it for free or do it for $800 when suddenly you say, right, my price is 1,500. What? It was 800 all the time. But I mean, I think you pretty much explained it, that it's a natural growth. And
I'll tell you what happened. So for Eric Thomas, he started charging $800 per speech. He booked himself so many times and his rate went up and up and up. He also continued to grind, and it took him 12 years to get his college degree. But he focused for 12 years because he wasn't really good at school, but he focused and he pushed himself and forced himself to go through it and got his college degree. Then he forced himself to get his master's, and then just last month, he finished his PhD. And what's interesting is it took him a long time to finish this. A lot of effort, a lot of focus, a lot of struggle, because he wasn't good at it. And he had people sit him down when he got to his dissertation, the final paper you're supposed to write, and they told him, they said, listen, you just don't have what it takes. You put in the hours, you put in the time, but you don't have the analytical mind it takes to be able to analyze what you're doing. You don't have that skill set. You just don't. So he went and he practiced and he built it and he learned it and he figured it out and he did it again and again and again and again and again until he actually got good at it. Then he finally wrote his paper, he graduated, he got his PhD. Guess how much he charges per speech now?
No idea. I guess, I don't know, at least 5 times more or something.
Over $100,000.
And what was the initial price?
$800.
Not a bad jump. Man, wow, that's crazy.
But here's the difference. Adding value, adding value, adding value, adding value. While he's out in the world adding value, he's back here getting better, getting better, getting better, learning skills, learning new tools, learning how to apply himself, adding to his curriculum, adding to his knowledge, adding to his tool sets, adding to his certification, getting better, getting better, getting better, adding value, getting better, getting better. And what's happening is as he's adding value, he's creating such a brand and name for himself while increasing his skill set, increasing his ability to serve, increasing his tool set, increasing everything he knows, his knowledge, his ability, his talent. And so what's happening is he's built this incredible brand out here and gotten so skilled back here that now it's worth more. So now he can go into the marketplace and say, hey, I'm a doctor in this. I'm a PhD, man. It's worth $100,000 because not only do I add more value than anyone else on this planet, I'm also more skilled than the majority of people in my field. I'm more skilled. I'm more certified. I have more degrees than they do. I have more actual real talent and tools back here backing me up, not just fluff or, helping people. Like I really have both now. And now he can start charging. He went from not even a low-tiered speaker to one of the top-tier speakers in the world, only in a few years because he was willing to do both. So for those people who are looking for how do I raise my price, it's not only adding consistent value. As you're adding so much value in the background, you need to be finding ways to how do you learn and grow and become more and get more skills and get more talented and acquire more assets so that when you go back to the marketplace, you have more to offer and now it's worth more. Yeah, while still adding so much value that your brand is so well known around the world because you add more value than anyone else has ever done.
Now, this again, a real top-notch advice, because obviously, especially with our community, very technical skills, very technical industry, ever so changing. And if you stop there, someone else will get ahead of you. Yeah.
There's one more thing I would tell specifically for this industry, because I've helped a friend of mine who's in the industry massively grow his business. He was a client of mine and friend as well. He does our website. When we first met, we met because he sent me an email and said, you have a really shitty website and I'd like to help you. Excuse the language. But it was true. If you look at if you go to the Wayback Machine and Google my website in 2010, you'll all laugh. Obviously, if you're web designers, it's painful. It was all black with a random picture of a tree because I didn't know how to do anything else. But that website helped me build a $100,000 a year business in 8 months. So it wasn't necessarily just the website; it was what I was offering and how I was offering it that really made the difference. Is the value I could provide. But with that thought, that's how we first met. And when I first met him, he was doing pretty well. He was doing a few $100,000 a year as a business. He was helping a lot of people, building a lot of sites, doing well. But what's interesting was I looked at him and I said, where are you most skilled? And there's a book called the EMyth Revisited where they talk about 3 major pieces in business. There's a talent who's very technically skilled at a very specific talent. There's an entrepreneur who likes taking the big risk, the big gamble, who putting it on the line. And then there's a manager, someone who's really good at managing all the pieces and keeping it together. So I looked at him, I said, where is your skill set? Are you a talent? Are you a manager? Or are you an entrepreneur? And he said, really, I'm a talent and kind of an entrepreneur. I said, perfect. So we need to pair you up with someone else who fills the gap that you're not. He said, what do you mean? And I said, if you're a talent, we need to find you an entrepreneur and a manager to be on your team so we can help you grow. So we went out and we helped him find both. We also found another talent. And we paired him up with someone who was a manager and salesperson. And what happened to his business was the next year, they became one of Inc. 500's fastest 5,000 growing companies in the country, which means you have to cross over $1 million mark in revenue to qualify. It's pretty amazing.
It is.
And all it was taking him, identifying his greatest strength and pairing him up with other people who have strengths that he doesn't have. There's 2 places you can go to discover this. One is the EMyth Revisited, or 3. One is the EMyth Revisited. They talk about it in depth. It's a real simple book, explains it all. 2, there's a test online called Wealth Dynamics, which explains the different pieces of where you fall and where your gaps are. It's a fun way to do it. It's creative. It's interesting. 3rd is my dad has an event called Business Mastery, and he explains this process in depth around business as a whole, and he does really well with it. So I would recommend any of those 3 options, and they range from $10 to $100 to $10,000. So depending on what you're looking for, options for everyone there. But really identify where your core strength is, where you're weak, and who you can find to fit that gap for you. And the easiest example, I always use sports as an example. If you remember when the Lakers were doing really well, the basketball team. There was the Buss family who owns the team. They're the entrepreneur. There's Phil Jackson, who was the coach. He was the manager. And then there's Kobe Bryant and Shaq at the time, who was the talent. So if you ask these people to do each other's job, it goes haywire. If you ask Kobe Bryant to do the entrepreneur's job and said, hey, Kobe, I know you got paid $130 million by Sprite last year, or Coca-Cola, for your endorsement. Every game, I want you to bring a $5 million check. And if the stadium's full, we'll give you your money and you get to keep it. If the stadium's empty, we'll just minus out however many millions we need to cover the cost that we lost that game, and that'll be that. And we'll give you back, maybe you owe us more that game, or maybe you get some back. I don't know. Imagine how good do you think he would play the game if he was worried the whole game? Is it full? Did I make my money? Like, dang, man. He wouldn't be able to play at all. His mind would be all over the place. That's the equivalent of you running your business as a talent, thinking about entrepreneurship all day, how much risk you're taking. Are we hitting our numbers? Are we in the game? Are we losing? Are we winning? How in the world can you focus on your gift if you're so consumed by something you're not good at? Now, imagine the talent, Jerry Buss, who's 8, he passed away now, but imagine him or his daughter trying to be Kobe Bryant. Hey, this game, Kobe, you go sit in the box. We'll let a Miss 86-year-old man come in and take your place on the court. We'll do great this game. They're gonna lose. Like, there's no way he can keep up with those young guys on the court. Or imagine Phil Jackson being like, "Hey, Phil, you got paid $13 million to coach. Bring $5 million a game, and if the stadium's full, we'll give you your money back. If not, you don't get anything." How good of a coach would he be? He wouldn't be a good coach. So it's the thought of you need to focus on your strength and let other team members fill the gaps. Now, in this industry, that gets kind of tricky, because if someone is a startup and they're like, well, I'm all three. I'm my talent and my entrepreneur and I'm the manager. I can tell you right now, you're not going to be able to hit the numbers or the big goals you're trying to hit if you're doing all three. Going back to Eric Thomas as an example, one of the greatest things he did that caused growth so quickly in his company, he partnered with someone from the very beginning. They're the manager. They're the entrepreneur. He's the talent. They know their roles and they do them very well. And same thing with Dad. Same thing with, all these other successful entrepreneur stories, is they know how to pair up with just the right people to fill the gaps that they don't have to all grow together. And it's when we've been our most successful. I remember when I first started, I would get like 2, 3, 4, 5 clients a month. And all of a sudden I paired up with someone who had a strength I didn't. And we did an event together and we had 20 clients sign up in a day. And I remember being like, whoa, crazy. I'm going to do okay in life. This is good. And all that changed was I found someone who was good at something I wasn't. And we paired up together because I was good at something they weren't. And that teamwork, we shot to the moon. So my last recommendation for people would be find a teammate who fills the weaknesses you have and together go for it.
Without knowing exactly what we teach in particular here, you hit the nail on the head once again. And in fact, funny enough, you mentioned Wealth Dynamics by Roger Hamilton, because that's a system that saved our business as well, by the way. My business partner initially started this company. He was going good. He was able to be all three, to be honest, for quite many years. But then obviously we hit the plateau, and so we did a test, and turns out I'm more sort of people's person. He's more sort of analytical, number crunching guy. Got together, boom. And the funniest thing is, before we did the test, we felt a difference. We argued, we had many conflicts, and I left the business because I thought this is not going to work. If we did the test, I'm like, man, we need each other more than we could we wouldn't have known, And the same in here with web design, there are many parts: running the web design, then the coding, then designing, and there are so many people who spend countless hours doing that one thing. All of the things for the one client, and business doesn't grow. So thanks, man. Definitely, this will be helpful. Yeah. So just to sum this whole thing up, before we end this videocast, is there any more, pain point that clients come to you? Just to brush over sort of briefly, perhaps these are the heaviest ones, but
those are the big ones. Those are the big ones. As far as accountability and performance, what we started with as far as conversation, performance and accountability is easy. When you find something to work for that's bigger than you, that's so deep and meaningful in your life, performance is easy. You'll show up and perform better than you've ever performed in your entire life when you have something bigger than yourself to perform for. If you want a beautiful example of this, Google Team Hoyt. And it's a father and son race team who the son was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. And he was generally, they called him a vegetable, meaning he couldn't talk, he couldn't speak, and he really couldn't move or walk or anything. And they said, just put him in a home and let him stay there. And the mom and dad said, no, we're going to raise him just like the rest of the kids. We're going to treat him just like a normal kid. And they did. And they couldn't talk to him or connect with him, but they just raised him like a normal kid and took him through life in a wheelchair. And when he was in grade school, a kid got in an accident, and there was a 5K run, a foot race for the child. And he came home, and they had made this machine for him at Tufts University that he could tap a lever with his head and with his eye move the cursor and then tap it letter by letter and spell stuff, and then hit a button and it would speak what he was thinking. And so he came home and told his dad, I want to run the 5K race to raise money for this guy. And his dad wasn't a runner, and his dad said, okay, let's do it. And so his dad went and pushed him for the very first time in a race. And when he got home, he said, Dad, when you pushed me in that race, I felt like I was normal. I felt like I wasn't disabled. And that's all his dad needed to hear as a father, to say, wow, this makes my son feel like a normal human being, not disabled, that he feels totally fine and able. This is it. Let's do it. Where's the next race? And what happened is now at the age, I think they're like in their 50s and 70s or 60s and 40s, they've done over 1,000 races. They've done marathons, triathlons. They've even done the Ironman competition multiple times together. And they're only 30 minutes off the world record at the Boston Marathon. It's amazing. And my thought is, how could a man in his 60s finish an Ironman competition when he's pushing, pulling, and towing an extra 100-pound son along the whole journey? I've heard of 35-year-old men at their peak strength, totally conditioned, great athlete, who fail halfway through and give up. And this guy is in his 60s, completing the whole thing, pushing, pulling, and towing his son through the whole thing. How? How in the world does he have such great performance? It comes down to the fact that he's doing it for much more than just himself. It's not a medal. It's not to prove. It's not for money. It's for something that's really meaningful to him, which is his son. He's willing to work harder than anyone else and go through more pain than anyone else is willing to go through for someone he cares more about than himself, which is his son. So if you want to increase performance, find a reason bigger than yourself to fight for. Your performance will immediately go up. Accountability, get a coach. Get someone that can show up and hold you accountable, that can be there at the end of the week and say, hey, did you do it? That's the only way to get accountability, is you need someone there to physically hold you accountable. They're coming up with silly, crazy ideas. The newest one I saw is a bracelet that shocks you if you don't do something right, which is silly because it's a very, very old technique they used to use back in the day, and it's funny that it's recirculated in history. But the truth is, find a coach that works for you. Find someone that when they talk to you and they connect with you, it just lights your soul on fire and gets you to perform in ways you wouldn't do without them. Connect with that person, hire them, get them on your team, and accountability and performance will go through the roof.
This is something, man. We definitely just got more than me and my community bargained for. Wow. Didn't expect this. No. Not at all. I just thought, we're going to touch the topics simply, what are mine and my community's pain points, but definitely, see, this is actually makes me want to ask, without any promises, of course, is there any possibility that you'd be willing to do a part 2 at some point as well?
Sure. Absolutely. Wow.
Great.
We'd be happy to.
Thanks a lot, man. Before we finish this whole thing up, of course, you still owe us something, which is your own shameless plug. Where can people find you, get in touch with you, and after all, get accountability coach, I guess? Sure.
JarekRobbins.com. So it's just my simple website. If you go there, hopefully you don't critique it too much since you guys are all designers, but JarekRobbins.com. There's tons of free gifts. We have a blog that we do a free every week. We do a free video that goes out there. It's 5 to 10 minutes long, teaches you a skill, has a worksheet that goes with it for free. So opt in, grab one of those worksheets, check out our blog, get on our newsletter, and that's where you can get our stuff.
And that's the hub of everything you do, where people can.
Yep. Has everything there, a book, a retreat, coaching, everything we do is connected right through that website.
Perfect. Once again, massive thank you. I really appreciate it, and part 2 really makes me smile already. Looking forward to it. Thank you once again.
Very welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for helping us share our message with the world.